Hey guys, Mr. O back with his second video of the day, and what we're going to do is continue on in our algebra review for the exam. Right here we're working on some word problems, and there are two types of word problems. So we either have that it's a total work problem in which we have a constant plus a rate times a variable equals the total. And then we have a comparison work problem in which you just have a constant plus rate times variable equaling another constant plus rate times variable. So we're setting up a problem in which we're just comparing two things that are going to end up equaling out at some point in time. So let's get to it. Example number 9, we've got 506 students went on a field trip. That immediately to me sounds like a total. So we're going to go ahead and put equals 506. Okay, and then it shows that we have 9 buses were filled and 29 students rode in cars. So right there, I have a constant, 29 students, plus, and then we had 9 buses, and then here comes our variable. We have no idea how many students were on the buses. So that's what we're going to figure out with this equation. So to start, we need to do the inverse operation of the 29. So we're going to minus 29 from both sides. So we are left with 9s, I'm trying not to make that look like a 5, equals 477. So our final step to figure this out, we have dividing by 9 on both sides, and we are left with s equals 53. So we need to say something along the lines of there are 53 students on each bus. So remember, on a word problem, we've got to answer that with a sentence. So there's my sentence. All right, so let's look at example 10. Example 10, we got on Saturday, I went to a bowling alley where the shoe rent was $2 and then each game was $3.50. Now, think about this. If how many pairs of shoes am I actually going to rent just for myself? That's 1. So that's kind of that initial value or that constant. So if I'm writing that equation, I've got the constant of $2 plus and $3.50 per what game? And that's going to equal, because I'm going to compare this to another bowling alley. So on Sunday, the next day, I went to Penn's where the shoe rental was $5. So there we go, that initial cost again, $5 plus each game being $3.25. So if I spent the same money each day, how much did I spend? Okay, so the first thing we've got to do, and I forgot my variable games right there. First thing we have to do is I see a variable on both sides, so we need to eliminate it. So I'm going to subtract off the smaller one. So minus $3.25 a game from both sides of that equation. Leaving us with 2 plus 0.25 g equaling 5. Next step, we've got to remove this constant, so I'm going to subtract by 2 on both sides. resulting in 0.25 G equaling 3, with the final step being to divide away the 0.25. Let's put this decimal in there a little bit better. So with that being gone, our final answer is that each game, or we bowled 12 games in order to make that price match, which means your arm probably fell off, but you kept bowling through it. Okay, continuing on, we're going to work on some proportions now. And just because proportions look a little more difficult does not mean that they are. There's just one little catch, and that catch is that it is a fraction. So if it's a fraction, that means divide. How do we undo division? We multiply. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply by both denominators. So I have to multiply by 12, and I have to multiply by x. And I'm going to flip the order of those, because when I do that, it puts the numbers right next to each other for us to cancel them out. So the x's cancel, the 12's cancel, but we've still maintained that balance with properties of equality. So on the left-hand side, I have 12 times 6, which is 72, equals 9 times x. And since that's 9 times x, the inverse operation is divide. So when we divide by 9 on both sides, we end up with a solution of x equals 8. Alright, and final two examples of this particular set. So we're going to look at setting up proportional word problems. So in this first one, we need to figure out what two objects we're talking about, or two focuses. A man used 10 gallons of gasoline on a 180 mile trip. So right here, we're going to deal with gallons of gas will be the first thing that I noticed they mentioned, and the second one is miles. So now we just set up our proportions. So the first one was that we used 10 gallons to attain a distance of 180 miles. And notice I left this little gap. Remember from the last problem, that's where we're going to do our multiplying by the denominators. So right here, we're asked how many gallons will it take us to use to go 450 miles. So we don't know how many gallons. That will be our variable over number of miles, 450. So as I mentioned just a little bit ago, we got to multiply by both denominators. So I'm going to multiply by 450 and 180 on both sides. And don't do like Mr. O and bleed over into the other problem. Try to write a little bit smaller than I am. So our 180s and 450s cancel when they're on each side. So we have 4,500 equals 180x. And now it's just a simple equation where we do inverse operation, multiply, or because there's multiplying, we divide by the 180. And find out that our answer is 25. So when it comes down to answering this question, don't forget we need to write a sentence. So we're going to say that took 25 gallons of gas to drive 450 miles. Okay, so let's come over and do this little percentage problem. It's still the exact same thing. I'm going to remind you that percent just means out of 100. So we have a part out of a whole whenever dealing with percents. Different colors. So we're going to go with a part out of the whole. And of course, percent again is just out of 100, literally per, out of, or for each, and then cent, meaning 100. So we have 80%, which is 80 out of 100, equals, and the guy pitched 35 ball games. How many did he win? So are we trying to find the part or the whole? Well, the total, it said, was 35. So our unknown is in our part. So we're going to multiply by 135 as well as 35. And that was ugly. So 100s cancel, 35s cancel. And now we've got 35 times 80. And that's going to equal 2,800. And that equals 100x. So all we got to do is divide by 100. And we're left with 28 equaling x. So to finish up this problem, so he won 28 games, or in this case, ball games. All right, guys, good luck, and hope you do well on the test.